All right, so to kick things off, screen mode. There we go. All right, so as we discussed last week, we were going to take a little closer look at the risk and of the ad reno option and try to put a cost to two of the major factors that we think are a concern on top of what we had previously estimated. So the first is $3.5 million for underslab plumbing. In our meeting last week, as we discussed, there was a comment made that the current underslab piping in the existing building is already creating issues and becoming a problem. So we had been carrying a little over $1 million for that. But once we heard that concern last week, we wanted to update to allow for enough to probably replace all of the underslab plumbing. So this is not just a cosmetic fix. This is a very invasive construction activity. It requires a lot of planning to avoid undermining the footings of the existing building when you dig down under that slab. So there's a lot of risk that's involved with this work. So 3.5 million was added to what we had already been carrying for that amount previously. And the other item is last week again, when we had taken a closer look at the logistics of what would need to happen on site and within the building to do an ad reno, we realized that we needed to double the amount of modular classrooms that we'd need to bring onto the site. We had been carrying around just under 10 million for that. So we added another 10 million for the additional modular classrooms that we would need. Typically, to get into this level of detail, the CM, once we bring them on board, would be able to get into this level of detail, which is why this cost was not identified in the earlier estimates. And the phasing plans that we had reviewed last time, and I believe we have the ones that we sent out as an update yesterday, they are subject to change once we do bring a CM on board because they'll be taking a different look at the project. So just to overview what that means for the pricing. So for AR 1.0 for the 805 students, we originally had budgeted estimated 264 million for the total project budget. Adding that 3.5 million and the 10 million, we get to 277.5 million for the updated total project budget estimate. Once I reran the numbers through the MSBA forms spreadsheet, I found that because the modular costs are just not eligible for reimbursement by the MSBA, the MSBA's likely participation reimbursement rate dropped, and for this option, they would only be likely participating around 105.5 million. So that would put 172 million towards the district share. For 900, we did all of that same math and resulted in 179.9 million as the updated estimate district share. One other point we did want to make clear that we kind of brought up last time, talking about the flexibility and future flexibility for growth of enrollment over time. Because of the reuse of the existing building in this option, we really don't think you could go much beyond 5% enrollment growth for the ad reno option. We also just wanted to provide a quick update on what the code upgrade option is. We provided a scope sheet and kind of some bullets here, as you can see, on what the scope includes for just a code upgrade. Really, it boils down to mechanical upgrades, ADA accessibility upgrades, really things that go behind the walls, above the ceiling, things that you're not really going to see, though they could have an impact on space within the building. So they could eat into the space that you already have for teaching and learning. As you can see here, it does not include any new finishes. It doesn't include any new furniture or new technology or new equipment. And there's really no upgrade to the site amenities beyond what might be required for ADA accessibility. So with that, the estimated construction cost is 81.2 million, where the estimated total project budget is 110 million. The MSBA does not fund in the participation of this option. So the total cost of that 110 million would be on the district. This also comes with the caveat that this estimate was done assuming that you would do this work on the same timeline as the ad reno. So you would be doing that work immediately after a vote or happens one way or the other. So if this, you wouldn't necessarily have to make these upgrades right away if there was a no vote on whichever option is preferred. But you would have to do this over time at some point. And the longer you wait to do it, the higher the price is due to escalation over time. So another point to make here, and I'll ask my team to jump in and correct me if any of this is wrong, just to make sure that we're saying this correctly. So the existing buildings is currently appraised at $26.4 million. If you do any work that's over 33% of the appraised value of that building, within a 3-year time frame, it triggers the need to do a full ADA accessibility upgrade, which isn't necessarily the whole cost of that $110 million, but it would be at least a partial cost that it would trigger. There are other thresholds that do apply depending on what work is being done. That would also might trigger the need for the full scope of the code upgrade to be completed in one shot. So that would just take a little more review from the project team to understand that if this option becomes a reality. And future flexibility, there's no ability for enrollment growth in this option because it is the building you have currently. So however many students you're able to fit in the building now, that is what you would be left with a code upgrade. Does my team want to add to that description at all? Or Carl?
Good summary, Jen. On the last point, there may be less space available in the sense that in order to upgrade things like boys and girls toilet rooms and locker rooms, it may take a little more space than they currently occupy. So the educational space may actually be reduced slightly.
Right. Good point, Carl.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And Jen, I actually think the MSBA, it's 30% of the appraised value, not 33.
Oh, understood. All right.
So it's a little bit less.
Right. So even less than that.
Right.
So you'd have to really take smaller chunks of this work if you were, didn't want it to trigger more.
I could be wrong. I'll defer to DRA, but I think the 33 represents the threshold for a fully the trigger for a fully fire suppression system.
So as you can see,
included in the code upgrade, right, David?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as you can see, there are a lot of different thresholds that could be hit to if you're doing work in an existing building, and we would need to do, I think, a lot more digging to understand how you could parse out this work if it does become a reality. So just moving quickly through, I have updated this cost comparison sheet to reflect the updated AR1 numbers for 805 and 900. This was sent out. I've also updated the 645 and 750 student enrollment, the design enrollments for the options for option AR 1.0. So as you can see here, at the same as the the 805 and the 900, the MSBA participation rate has dropped, which means that the district share has gone up. This also, we have updated so that the soft costs reflect the same as the current options, 805 and 900, so that we are comparing closer to apples. As you saw in my my email, there is still a discrepancy because 645 and 750 were not brought forward as we discussed last week. So so there would have been some refinement and probably some additional square footage that would need to apply to these two options, which would probably bring them even, even closer to these the 805 and the 900 options. This has not been updated. I just wanted to include it in case anyone had questions on NC 2.0 or 2.1 tonight. This, we won't get into detail on this, and I'll send this out right after the meeting. But this is the updated taxpayer impact breakdown with those updated AR1 numbers. This reflects the 805, 900, and those two lower enrollments. And these include just those the options that are still on the table. So this is the 1 year, that first year on a level principal debt service, as you can see here across the bottom. And then if you're taking a look even closer at the monthly average taxpayer share, so you can see how each option kind of compares across the board. There's not, and some districts, there's no change across any of the options. So just so that you have this information, we don't have to go over this in detail right now, so I will stop sharing for now. And I believe we also have some logistics plan updates that were sent out yesterday, and I don't know if folks have had a chance or if they wanted to review that in tonight's meeting before we have discussion on them.
Mr. Chair, Jen, I'm sorry, Jen, are you referring to the unpacking of what's involved with an ad reno with when you say logistics, is that?
Yeah, sorry, the phasing. Yes, the phasing plans that that were updated and sent out yesterday. I didn't know if we want to do an update on what was sent out yesterday, or if folks want to get into discussion, and if the questions come up, we can always pop it up and respond.
Anybody? We had a question over here about the water treatment plant. Would that be included in the ad rental?
Yes.
And that comes, do we pay for that, or does the state kick in on that?
Well, it is a eligible cost, but like virtually every MSBA school project, the cap on site work is very low compared to reality, and so while we could say it is eligible, the amount of the budget that's devoted to site work exceeds the MSBA cap in that sense.
Okay, thank you, Kyle.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions right now?
Mr. Chair, can you just unpack the additional money for the modulars? Is it because you determined that there was the need for more classrooms or potentially more specialized space because it's tough to renovate certain shops and we might have to build something custom because that really, the addition of the non-reimbursable modulars closed that gap considerably between the ad reno values and new.
Tom, I think it really had to do with looking at the phasing, the way that option wraps around the gym creates a certain construction zone that at first we did not include the science labs as part of the first phase, but then in looking at the phasing, they really would be sort of consumed by the adjacent construction zone. So it added basically those 5 or 6 science labs to the mix that previously we weren't necessarily counting on. That's the basic difference.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Jen, on your town tax rate comparison, you've used a level principal for the amortization of the loan. Now, this is my first building project. I know you people have done a lot of them. What is the procedure out in the real world with these buildings? Is it level principal, or is it a true 30-year amortization for the debt of this type of project?
So this would be something that we need to look into more closely on what's most appropriate for this project, and with so many communities involved. This really is just kind of to take a look at what would happen in this one particular situation, to just kind of break it down to show what it would cost taxpayers on a monthly and annual basis in this one particular situation. We also did the analysis for a level debt service across the 30 years. So we do have that information as backup as well. But this was just kind of to take a look, because we really won't, there's a lot that goes on once we do know the budget at the end of SD, and how we figure out funding with all of the communities involved. I don't know if Lynn or anyone else on my team would like to add to that.
I think communities can choose from different ways of funding, as Jen said. It could be an amortization or a level debt service, or some may be able to fund it within their existing debt capacity without a, without a override or anything like that.
Okay, because my quick numbers shows that in year one, we might pay an extra $2.5 million on the level principal versus an amortization. And where we're going into what we feel is communities that have a lot of other projects going on, the lower impact to the taxpayers in the short term might be the better option, or at least to present those numbers to us so that we can make an educated guess moving forward. Because again, it's going to be a tough sell to the 9 towns. It's a lot of money. They have a lot of schools and fire stations and police stations that they want to build as well. So I think the least impact today, understanding that over 30 years, there may be some more interest paid on the amortization piece and the level debt. And it will flip at some point, but $2.5 million a year of financial impact is a huge number for our towns.
Agreed. And we do have both schedules that I can share out with the committee after this. We had found when we did the first round for both level debt and level principal over the 30 years, that the first 13 years on a level principal are still more expensive than that level debt service. So I think exactly what you're saying makes a lot of sense. So we'll make sure to share out both sets of numbers.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything right now? Okay, why don't we open up the discussion and see where everybody's head's at to what they're thinking on a ad rental. Does anyone want to start?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
if I may, I'm not really in favor of an ad rental. I've seen that done in my town in the past. And for the amount of money you spend, you don't get the years out of it. We had an ad rental to our middle school. We're building a new middle school. We had ad rentals to our 2 elementary schools. One they're looking at again, one of the elementaries. Whether it's when you do an ad rental and you have to put the old section and add the new section, and you gotta get them together. For some reason, there's always issues with water leaks and damage and mold. And they can't see all the issues, and then more issues come about. So if we're gonna spend that amount of money, why would we wanna do an ad rental? The difference is not a heck of a, it is millions, but I mean,
It's now more expensive.
huh?
It's not more expensive.
It's now more expensive.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
and then spending money on, trailers out, I don't call it mobile units for the millions of dollars, it's just a waste of money, because you spend it, right, and then you take them away.
Right. Anybody else? Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I concur with you, Dan. I think that, the amount of participation financially by the state going in it as a ad reno is less than if you go new. I also think it's more disruptive to the school itself. If you can build a separate structure and everybody can business as usual, I think that's a win. Yes, the money is always tight, but when you look at the expenses and the potential hidden ones, the ad reno could actually turn out to be more money than going new. So you kind of have to weigh it for yourself, honey, but you know, you gotta look at it like that, from all sides. So I think that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Sandy, do you have anything?
I just concur that the benefit of a new school, enabling us to maintain mostly regular function for almost a generation of students is the best way to go. Having students go through an ad reno and be disrupted for an entire generation of students.
At least, yeah.
It seems unfair to that group of students.
That's where I am. Go ahead, Bob.
And mine is that it takes so much time to do the ad reno, as it does to do the new.
We're talking almost 5 years.
5 years,
Yeah.
okay, 2. So it's time is money.
Dustin,
It's a bad idea.
short and sweet, huh?
Plain and simple, it's a bad idea. I think everybody's hit the nail right on the head. We can't do a disservice to these students that are fighting so hard to come here. It's a minimum of 5 years, if not more, and life is not gonna be what they expected. And again, I'll just say it, it's a bad idea.
Yeah, in my own personal, and then we'll get to the people out there. My own personal opinion, going through all these things, I haven't heard one positive reason to go ad reno. It's just not there, and disrupting the school for almost 5 years. I think they'll be picketing my house, you know, because it's just incredible. That's my feeling on it. Jack, do you have anything?
No, I just agree that we shouldn't go with the rental.
Okay, who else is out there? Frank, you have anything out there? Frank Mola. It might be.
Well, no.
Haven't seen Bob now. Frank, you there, buddy? Okay.
Bob's not on, Bob Mello's not.
Bob, no, he's not on. I was hoping he would be because I wanted some input. All right. That's that one. Oh, there's Robert. Hey, Bob.
Might be just, he should hear you now, Bob.
Mr. Mello, sir.
Says he's muted.
I think he's just moving.
While we're waiting, Mr. Chair, I would just quickly punctuate saying that the recent information that closed the financial gap between the ad reno and something that is new was the only glimmer of light for an ad reno. Pressure testing the gap, but what this has proven is that there's a high risk to unknown costs.
Bob Mello, are you there?
I'm here. How are you guys tonight?
How are you, Robert? We're having a long discussion, or sure, not that long, but a discussion on ad rentals. I think I know where you're going, but would you like to add something, please?
I think I caught the tail end of what Mr. Hickey was saying. I think he kind of summed it up. You know, there's a lot of unknown things that aren't or may not be repaired. You know, I initially think of things like the plumbing system, whether it's in the ground or in the CMU walls that currently exist that we don't really have good access to, that is 60 years old. And, you know, when you start looking at the numbers of the projects, that's been proposed for a little bit more money, you know, we get a brand new building and the security of knowing that we're not going to have any major issues, you know, for some time. And, you know, when I look at that and being a taxpayer myself, I feel a little bit more comfortable with that rather than just going with an ad reno. Again, this is just having been in the building for 14 years, knowing what's transpired in the last 14 years, what's been done, what needs to be done. You know, that's my inside look and my thoughts on that whole thing. So I'm definitely thinking that the ad reno is probably not an option that we should be considering.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, I didn't hear one positive ad reno. Anybody want to make a motion to kill ad renos?
I'll make the motion.
Dustin, second by Whitman. We'll do a roll call.
Mr. Chair, for the record, I'm sorry, this is to remove ad reno design from consideration.
And that would be the 2.0 and the 2.1 and the number of students. Bob Haywood is a yes. Tom Hickey.
Yes.
Sandy Baldwin.
Yes.
George Cooney.
Yes.
Jim Coughlin.
Yes.
Bob Mahoney.
Yes.
Jack Manning.
Yes.
Bob Mello.
Yes.
Frank Mola. Dustin Reardon.
Yes.
Dan Salvucci.
Yes.
Unanimous of those present, with one not answering. I don't know how to do that.
We'll record it as a non-vote.
Non-vote.
And if we connect with Frank, we can record it afterwards.
Okay. All right. Jen, the ad rentals are off the table.
We will take them off the table. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else want to discuss the other options? Or we all want to wait for next week to do those two?
Well, I just like, I think,
We can discuss them and then vote next week. That's fine too.
yeah, I think so, because I think looking at this information and mostly looking at the two options, well, the four options, but I'm looking at either 805 or 900. I mean, that's personally what I'm looking for. But, the cost difference between the 2.0 and the 2.1, I think we need time to bring it to our board, you know, and discuss it and see how they feel about it. I mean, you can't just say, well, the cheapest way is the best way, because sometimes it isn't. Because if we go with an 805, and then, right, we got my feel, and we're limiting them what they could bring in, and they want to bring in more, if they want to bring in more. I know my town with the highest number of students, and I just can't say, I'm sorry, no more kids can come to the South Shore. I'm sorry, their parents, the education that your child wants, we don't have the room for them, and I don't want to do that. And Pembroke is now looking at us, and Hull may change their mind again, Hingham may look at it. So I mean, I am really split between 805 and 900. I wouldn't go any lower than that.
I'd like to talk about the differences between 2.0 and 2.1.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about enrollment right now. I completely agree with Dan that enrollment, I think enrollment is our biggest issue right now. That's where we're going to be looking at what's going to make the most financial sense or financial difference. But I think that when you look at that matrix that they presented last week and they presented a couple of weeks prior to, with the comparisons of what's good between the two versus what's bad between 2.0, I think 2.0 is really the way to go. I think that checks the most boxes for what the school needs, what the taxpayers are going to want to see, and what is really going to be most cost effective. I don't think that we need to talk enrollment now. I think that's definitely something we can push off till next meeting, but I'd love to hear everybody's opinion on possibly getting rid of 2.1, just because it doesn't fit. If we're getting rid of the ad reno because it doesn't fit what we're looking at, and we're talking about a $7 million difference between two schools or two designs, and one design doesn't really fit what we're looking for anyways. So why are we going to still argue, or not argue to talk about it?
Yep.
Let's just move on and worry about the enrollment.
I agree with, I second Dustin's opinion. I was behind the request for the 2.1 design. Like the design features, then when I saw the comparison between the value add in terms of space and hallways and access points, that realized that the 2.1 is not the way to go, and would rather give folks the opportunity to focus, to drill down into 805 and 2.0 or 900 on 2.0 to focus energies there for a decision next week. So I wondered if we could consider voting on 2.1 as well.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead. No.
it's 2.1 is more expensive, and we spent time at previous meetings pointing out the benefits of having the gymnasium and the locker room closer to the athletic fields. It would seem apparent that 2.1 is not the way to go.
Bob Mello, do you have any opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. So with 2.0, we're getting what we're looking for, and there's also a major haircut on the cost to construct it. So I think that's, in my opinion, a positive. So we're saving the district's money. We're having basically the same school for the most part. It's just that we're relocating a couple of things, and that relocation is more beneficial. So I do agree. I think if we're gonna make a decision, I think taking 2.1 off of the table is something we should consider tonight.
Thank you, Bob. Jack, man,
I totally agree. Take it off the table.
sounds good. Jim, do you have any input on that, or?
No, I agree with everybody.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there anything in 2.1? I mean, I'd like to go for the cheapest one, and 2.0 does take care of a lot of issues, but like Tom said about the gymnasium and the locker room to the fields, is there any way we can rearrange if there's an issue really between 2.0 and 2.1? Is there a way we can correct that?
Yeah, I could address that, Mr. Chair. The purpose behind 2.1 was to address the idea of having the heart of the school, the common areas be in the center.
Yeah.
And honestly, what we determined was that while that makes for a shorter commute for kids from their shops and classrooms to lunch, when we talked about the mechanics of after-school activities, the ability to shut down a portion of the school, so when we're running sporting events, it's easier to segregate the part of the school where the public might have access. We talked about the logistics of athletes coming through the center of the school to get to the fields. And also a small detail on 2.1 is that if we were going to offer, and I think we would like to offer children the ability to go outside during a lunch window, in 2.1, the only option is to have them outside in the front of the school. Okay. Whereas if we did that with 2.0, the dining commons would open up to the back. And so there are actually some design reasons, and on top of it all, it's several $1 million cheaper. The 2.0 is.
Okay, and looking at, I hate to, but looking at, one of the things I like about 2.1, and I'm not advocating for it, but besides the fact, the entrance, all that glass entrance that's in front, it kind of looks classier than the flat entrance. 2.0.
And through schematic design, Dan, the front, the aesthetic look on the front right now is just a concept. We'll have 6 months to be able to bring what you like about the front of 2.1.
Yeah.
Whatever thematic purpose we want for the front, that can be accomplished through the schematic design process from now through the late summer.
Sounds like she, I thought about the engineer. Okay.
Well, I've always been a fan of the 2.0, because I was the one talking about having all the athletics on one side. And I think Ms. Waldner agreed with me, because the last thing she wanted to hear at 2:30 is kids running from the locker room with their cleats on right out to the front of the school for practices and things. So that way everything is down the end to the left. And again, I think it's just the best option for our school.
So you're saying 2.0, they're not running
2.0 did not.
They're not running out the front door to get to the field.
Plus they get extra exercise.
There we go.
Yeah, now they're gonna run a little further.
Everything's over to the.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, sounds like we're leaning towards 2.0. Anyone willing to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to exclude 2.1 from further discussion when it comes to making a decision, I guess.
Seconded by Rockland. Any further discussion? Here we go again. Bob Hayward's a yes. Tom Hickey?
Yes.
Sandy Walden?
Yes.
George Cooney?
Yes.
Jim Coughlin?
Yes.
Bob Mahoney?
Yes.
Jack Manning?
Yes,
Bob Mello?
Yes.
Frank Mola?
Yes.
Justin Redden?
Yes.
Dan Salvucci?
Yes.
Unanimous. 2.1 is off the board. And Dr. Hickey will have a long discussion on numbers next week.
I wouldn't want to have a long discussion on anything next week, I think, but I'll do my best to keep it concise, yes. But we'll go over any capacity numbers.
Just review those. I
Yeah.
think we've done it before.
Yeah, capacity enrollment numbers and operating costs and potential future options and the pros and cons of each should be the focus of our next meeting.
Jim.
What I suggest, excuse me.
Jim, go ahead.
Okay, Jen Carlson, on, the handouts that we got tonight, based upon the 2.0 estimates as of right today, you have 805, the district share of 805 is 174 million for 805, and for 900 students, it's 176. So there's only a $2 million difference between 805 and 900. Are these numbers, now we've narrowed it down to 2.0, is there any more refinement of these numbers that needs to be done, or is this pretty much where everybody agrees with right now?
This should be it for the new construction option. I think it was a little more sure to make those assumptions of cost because it is new construction, and there's a lot less risk overall. So these numbers, as far as I'm concerned, are not going to change between now and next week.
Great, thank you.
Jim, if I may, it's funny you should bring that up because I had a discussion with my town administrator when I received the email and I looked at the numbers and the difference between, because I said, I'm wondering 805, 900, which way do we go? I mean, I don't want to go at 805 and then 10 years down the road, we say, my God, we're too crowded. You know, why didn't we go with the 900, right? Or we're not allowing kids to come in, or other towns that come in, or even out of district coming in where we offset the cost of the in-district might have been used to, but we ran out of space. So I talked to our town administrator and I'm telling her the numbers, she looked at them, because I sent her the email, she goes, for the amount of cost, why wouldn't you go with the 900? It's not that much more to the taxpayers, you know, it's like, for a year, it's, I think one of them's like $8 a year or something like that, or whatever, at least in my town. You know, and I'm saying, you know, she's thinking, why not go with it? So tomorrow I'll probably sit down with her, give her some of these numbers here and say, what do you think? Because she, then I have a meeting next Tuesday with the board of selectmen and I may bring it up at, and it's all, you know, it's not on the agenda. And just explain it to the board. I don't know how they feel about it. But they've been getting numbers between yourself, myself, and me talking to our town administrator, just giving the numbers. But I'm just looking at the taxpayers of Whitman and what it's gonna cost them. You know, and the difference in a monthly thing for 2.0 and 2.1 is 39 cents a month more. I mean, why
Mr.
not?
Chair, yeah, I think this is a perfect place, this is a perfect segue to our next meeting, because I think the only counterpoint really is to have a deeper dive conversation on what would be the increased operating costs to staff and run a school of that size. But we, more than any other school in the Commonwealth, have the ability to say with confidence that perhaps to help pay for these increased operating costs,
Right.
we've got the potential to enlarge the district. And then we can have the conversation about, you bring in more roommates to help pay the bills,
Right.
you share the resource, and that's, I think, gonna be a fruitful conversation. Construction-wise, it seems a $2 million difference to your point, Dan.
Right.
If you factor in the operating costs, we should have that conversation. We can look at some projections. And then I was at one finance committee meeting in the last couple of weeks where a member of the committee said, it would seem like good stewardship of the district to, if you have that opportunity.
Yeah.
But they also understand that they want us to also be, if we show that we're aware of the operating side, it just makes for a more fruitful, less one-sided discussion. It still may be that that's where the direction we go, but let's take that, let's take the operating piece, let's take the 10% flex. So you build for 805, you flex it up by 10%. You build for 900, flex it up by 10%.
Yeah.
One town is about to join, one town starts this fall, there could be others. So yeah, this is obviously a very important decision next week for us.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else? With that, Mr. Salvucci,
With all due respect, motion to adjourn.
second by Rocco. Roll call vote. Bob Hayward, yes. Todd Hickey.
Yes.
Sandra Balda.
Yes.
Isabel, Bruce Wallace. George Clooney.
Yes.
Jim Coughlin.
Yes.
Bob Mahoney.
Yes.
Jack Manning.
Yes.
Bob Mello.
Yes.
Frank Mola.
Yes.
Dustin Reardon.
Yes.
Dan Salvucci.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We've got a lot accomplished.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good night.
Thanks, folks.
Good night.